peace out, right?
Wanna make that paper, wanna make that now. This is the affiliate marketing show. Wanna make that paper, wanna make that now. This is the
What's up, everybody? This is Josh coming to you with another episode of the Affiliate Marketing Show. I'm from OfferVault.com, the industry's largest aggregator of affiliate networks, direct advertisers, ad networks, and all things affiliate marketing. We also have Mr. Pay Per Call Adam Young, as well as Mr. Marketing Harrison Gevirtz, and our special guest today, Chris Shihadeh, founder and CEO of Skylab Digital, a digital performance accelerator that helps design, launch, and scale and optimize direct response marketing campaigns to get you loyal customers and better profits. What's up, Chris? How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Really appreciate that nice intro. Adam and Harrison, what's going on, guys?
Hi.
Happy to have you here, bro.
Dude, I'm stoked to be here, man. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. It's exciting times.
Chris, let's dive
Yes,
right
it
into it. Man, I know that you focus a lot on direct response marketing. You know, to be completely honest, I'm not exactly familiar with like what that literally means. I can understand it from a surface level just based off of what it's called. But can you tell us what is direct response marketing and how does it work and how does it work best?
Yeah, absolutely. So direct response is what I consider just you can measure the results. And, it's an action oriented where you build the funnel and you can quantify the results at the end of that funnel versus a brand campaign is really just building awareness. You're building awareness versus building an actionable result. And so we focus on direct response. We want to be able to show an ROI and have it be shown rather quickly.
Cool. And then do you have like a specific process? I know we were talking earlier, you kind of mentioned there's like 4 phases to developing a direct response marketing campaign. Can you kind of walk us through, each 4 of those and what it takes to do each 4 of those, on a professional level?
Yeah, so first step would be, to design our campaign, and that's when we do research. We make sure there's viability. We can get a cost per call, a cost per lead, whatever action we want at a cost that could be profitable for us and beneficial for our clients. And then, we start working on content. We start building out the ad sets, building out the funnels. Make sure we have all our tracking done properly on our funnels. Adam and Harrison have built the legendary system to be able to have us put together the tracking really easily within Facebook. So it makes it really easy. And then start put together scripts, send those over to UGCs. We basically build out all our ads, and that's the first part of the design.
Can we pause right there? I want to know, when you're saying you do research, can you walk us through like what your research process kind of looks like? Because I feel like that's a very broad thing, but like, what do you focus on when you're doing research to build a direct response marketing campaign?
For sure. So, really, it's not that complicated. We're Google different keywords of what our, what type of jargon is in that industry. So, for example, if we're trying to figure out a new Medicare angle, we're going to go research on all the different carriers' websites, what type of new products are available, what type of benefits are available, how we can twist them to be very, to be a good hook for our users and get the right caller coming in to where it can be beneficial for our clients and they can sell more policies, have a high conversion rate, et cetera. So that's one part. Next part is figuring out, what our potential costs would look like if we're going to target a certain ad set. So we're going to do some keyword research, things like that. And then we'll look at competitor analysis. So we'll see kind of is there a bunch of competition in this campaign, in this vertical, or whatever it may be. And or if it's wide open. Right now we have a new campaign that we're just building, and there isn't much going on in the competition side. So we kind of have free reign to be able to build what we want to build. Kind of be a double-edged sword with that side, because we don't really know what potentially is working. So maybe the testing phase a little bit longer, but it gives us a little bit more runway.
I have a question for you. Hold on a second. I have a question for you related to UGC, which is user-generated content. And so obviously we have a ton of clients that do UGC. I've seen UGC all over the place, been using it when I was a marketer back in the day. And one of the biggest challenges I ran into, and this was a long time ago in ecom, but it was always finding the creators to make the user-generated content, wrangling that into an editing process, then building out multiple variations of each piece of content that comes in so it can get tested, taking the beginning and swapping it with the end, and editing the video so that you can get different hooks and different stories to see which one converts better. And this, for me, like, I don't know, for those that are interested in EOS, I am not an integrator, right? Like, I am a visionary personality versus an integrator. And while that's great, I think a lot of people struggle with the process on this. And I do know that you're great at process. So I'm curious, how do you manage, and then sort of operate a UGC machine that allows you to keep testing ads? Because I've never seen your ads before, but I mean, I'm sure you do a ton of them to figure out which ones generate the best results. So, like, how do you organize all of that?
So we have a handful of actors. We reach out to, people on Instagram, people on TikTok, on Indeed. I mean, just kind of reach out to everybody and say, here's some ideas, see who's content creator. You'll get 1,000 potential responses, and you got to sift through which ones are somewhat decent. You reach out, kind of get a profile of a person. We have them categorized based on ages and ethnicities. And then we put together our scripts. We send them a bunch of scripts and say, do you want to do this? And what's the cost? And then they'll send a whole bunch of footage. Some of them will do editing. Some of them won't do editing. Usually if they edit, then they'll send it back to us and we'll make any finalized edits if we want. A lot of times they'll do raw footage and we'll be able to put whatever, however we want to structure it. And then we have them, we'll do reshoots of different hooks and, different little pieces for each of the pieces of content. And, hopefully we have, I don't know, maybe 5 hooks to start, and we can, then you can build out 25 plus videos on one actor.
Nice. And so basically the short answer is you work your ass off.
Essentially so. Yeah, I'm good at long-winding everything. So
No, look, I'm not making fun of you. Look, I talk to so many affiliates and a lot of them don't want to do the work. And when I say crazy shit, like, you need to make 1,000 variants of
they think you're
ads.
out of that. They think Adam's crazy because they're just coasting. They're like, I have a small profitable business. I don't want to take it to the next level because I don't want to go create thousands of ads and do all this shit. And Adam's like, well, if you want to scale your business, go make thousands of ads, bro.
Yeah. Like, I was in a group session with a bunch of marketers and I suggested exactly this. They asked me about how I would do it. And I was like, I'd start with 250 and I'd work towards 1,000. And they were like, what? No, impossible. You would never. And I was literally like picturing myself in my parents' basement in Michigan in the winter. Like, I had painter's tarp tucked into the drop ceiling around my desk with an electric heater on the floor, just freezing my balls off, testing. And this was pre-video, but just like testing thousands of images to figure out what advertisements would work, like which ones were going to generate the highest click-through rate, and which ones would perform. And then as you test them, you remove the losers, expand on the winners. And I think it's so refreshing to hear you just say, yeah, I mean, the process is shitty. We cold call people. We ask them to do videos. And then some of them edit, some of them don't, which makes it an organizational nightmare. And then we spin the content into a whole bunch of ads. And then we test them. And when they all fail, we do that shit again and then find even more people to do exactly that. And then we just keep smashing our faces against the fucking keyboard until money falls out. And I don't know. I thought it was pretty refreshing. I liked it a lot.
I love it. I mean, it's essentially, you just have to keep going and almost all of them suck. And then, you find one winner and you're like, oh, it was all worth it. And then it stops being a winner 3 weeks later. So you're like,
Exactly. It's like drilling for oil. You drill and drill and drill and drill and drill, and you're like, there's nothing. And you drill and it's sand and the bit breaks. And you're like, fuck, and you drill and you drill. Oh my God.
And then you get that oil, and then you're like, okay, great, let's drill some more.
Yeah, exactly. The well dries up. You just do the whole thing again. It's ridiculous. And so I don't know. I think, Chris, we know a lot of the same people in the industry, and all the successful people we know, they make it look easy, but I know these people are just hitting it hard and going hard all the time.
It's definitely it's a lot. We have some really good we have some companies that do editing with us and stuff. So I mean, it's you can't do it all with a few people for sure. So I mean, that part of it is it's just a lot of work, and yeah, it's consistency, and you like the oil analogy is huge. I mean, that's exactly how it is, right? Right as you're about to like want to shoot yourself and say, fuck this industry, you're like, oh my God, I got a winner and it killed it.
Chris, yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead, Josh. No, take it back, Josh. You're the host.
All right. Give me the show back, Chris. So that's kind of a lot on the design. Let's talk about the launch a little bit. What does a typical test look like for you? And what are some of the KPI targets that you really focus on?
So we test small, man. I mean, most of them are losers. So I mean, $100 to $250 an ad set, and you find out if there's any legs, right? If we're not generating any actions, whether it be a lead or a call or whatever, depending on the vertical, but for whatever metric we want to look at, we start out looking at, our CPM is really, really high, but for the most part, we just look at CPA. So, I mean, that's essentially the only metric that matters is our cost per call, or cost per lead for that matter. Really cost per converted call, because that's where ultimately we're getting paid on. So if we're generating a whole bunch of phone calls that mean nothing, then it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's where we look at initially, and then once we start seeing signs of life, then we scale it.
Yeah, walk us through that. How do you guys actually scale it? What are some of the actual actionable, things that you're doing to really build it up?
So, once we find winning campaigns, winning ad sets rather, then it's just really a matter of increasing budget. And, we'll after we cut the losers, we'll increase the budget, and we make sure that at scale that the same metrics are working at a lower scale. So, when you spend $5,000 a day versus $100 a day on an ad set, it's definitely could be a lot. It could be a lot different. How the metrics could be a lot different. So we want to make sure that our ad sets are consistent as we scale them up higher. And then after that, it's optimized. So when we see those, at a higher volume, we can see there's better performing states or worse performing states, or better performing buyers with this particular content, or worse performing buyers. And so then we can kind of optimize to have it be the best for our buyers and best for us internally.
Yeah, I want to ask you about split testing specifically. Like, when you are split testing, what is the different things that you're doing? Are you changing the creative in terms of the text that's on it? Are you changing just like the color scheme? Like, how in the weeds are you getting on these split tests?
Usually it's an image and copy. Like almost all. You don't usually. I mean, if you're changing the colors, it could work. And some people say that, the orange button is better than the green button. But for the most part, I mean, we're not quite that sophisticated. We're changing the copy, and we're changing the image, and see if we can get a lift in conversion rate.
Generally speaking, Josh, what an affiliate or media buyer will do is they'll have, they'll create a list or a bunch of variations of the ad copy for creative, and then they'll have the various images or video content associated with that campaign, and they'll essentially take all these and just do all like create the maximum combination of the two across the text and the ad or video kind of content that they have, and then run those ad set tests as Chris mentioned, and then see which sticks or which is garbage. And generally speaking, Chris, you could probably attest to this. You'll see 90% of your success come from 10% of those ad sets that you launch.
Might even be tighter. It might be like 5% generate results, or 5% generate break even, and out of the 5%, half or less generate really profitable stuff. Also, Josh, what's interesting about your question, and Chris, you can touch on this too, is you have your ad set, your ad copy, and I think the video content is generally going to make the biggest difference if you test different videos, different actors, different voice, all that stuff. But you also, once you figure out the creative that gets you the high click-through rates, then you optimize the landing page. And to Chris's point, the more minute the change on the landing page, the more traffic you need to actually test it. So if you go green button versus orange button on 1,000 clicks a day, you're essentially wasting your time. You'd be better off just completely changing the landing page and having a night and day approach on 1,000 clicks a day or 10,000 clicks a day to really optimize something for like color of button or very small text changes or very small image changes. You really need a massive amount of traffic, and the more minute the change, the more traffic you need to have a large enough pool of people to see different results. And so the biggest optimization wins come from changing out the video, not even the text in the ad, but just the video, and likely like night and day pages where it's like, oh, I'm going to test a single page advertorial versus a 4-page quiz path or something. And you can optimize the quiz path even, but it all depends on how much traffic you have. If you only have 1,000 clicks a day, it's too little traffic to test a lot of those changes. So you just have to like use entirely different models on the landing page to see which one's going to hit the users. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that, Chris, because I haven't done this in like 9 years. So how close am I?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for us, we don't usually mess with the landing page all that much. I mean, if it doesn't work, we just kind of go with a new idea entirely. And so rather than try to make one that's a loser into a winner, we're like, all right, that whole kind of concept didn't work. And so we'll change, maybe change the question flow, change the image, change the headline. And, maybe it's the same overall basic layout, but it's an entirely different page. And that's kind of how we make our adjustments on the lander. And then the ads, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's, we make pretty drastic changes. The launch side is where we'll put a whole bunch of like similar, we'll just swap out 5 different images with the same copy, and then 5 different, a bunch of copies with all these different pieces. We find out which ones are winners, if any. And I've realized that the ones that I think are winners are almost never the winners.
Yeah.
Yep.
Adam,
I'm thinking about a campaign we ran a long time ago with a rapper on the creative. We thought it was going to crush. You know what I'm talking about, bro. And we spent like a couple $1,000s and made like $41. We were so pissed. So yeah, Chris, you're not alone.
Or it's like the first TV commercial we ran. I thought it was just gonna crush.
I'll say the metrics of our first TV commercial. We spent $5,000 and we made $300. I remember them like yesterday, so I'm not ashamed to say.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about what you said, Chris, is people fall in love with their advertisements when they put their own like blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I did with that TV commercial. So I like made
it was our commercial. It was blood, sweat, and tears.
I thought it was amazing.
5 stars.
We bought a Mac, and I literally edited it myself, and I spent hours doing it. And I thought it was a great commercial. It made no money whatsoever. And it was fine. It didn't bother me. But I think what happens is people fall in love with their landers or whatever work they do. But in this kind of line of business, it doesn't matter what we think. It only matters what works and what the data shows works. And you really need to pull on that thread and never really fall in love with your product or your website or your creatives or your branding. Like none of that matters. all that matters is what consumers resonate with and convert on. And that's really hard for a lot of people to get over because we put so much effort into what we build. Even at Ringba, right? Like we build SaaS, we'll put features out and sometimes we're like, this is amazing. And then our clients are like, no, it's not. And I think it's so super important to be able to set your ego aside and listen to the audience that is actually interacting with what you're making. Because when you do that, you can optimize for their happiness, which is really what you want, because that's what results in the financial gain.
I like to say, check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, right? Because when you put your blood, sweat, and tears in things, you're just like, you want it to work so bad. And, you know, when it doesn't, you're just like, oh, start questioning your own self. And did I just suck at this? Maybe at least for me. And, you know, funny enough, it seems like the ones that I think aren't going to work or going to work the worst seem to do better than the opposite way around. So,
when you do this long enough and you really put the effort in, that's the best. When you're like, yeah, this is never, oh my God.
I know, it's so true, right? It's exactly how it goes. What the heck did that just
So you guys,
accidental pile of $100 bills.
you guys mentioned a few of the campaigns that didn't work out in your history. I'm curious on the flip side, do you remember any time where you like adjusted one little specific thing and it was like the key to the success of the campaign, whether it was the text or a button or a color? Like, do you remember any time like that where it actually popped when you made that adjustment, and what the adjustment was, more importantly?
I'll answer this one first. I think when Harrison and I were media buying back in the day, we were doing a lot of international traffic. And so we just had an immense number of clicks, like hundreds of millions. And they, you know, they're not worth nearly as much as they are here. Like if you're marketing to Brazil, for instance, or India or something like that, there's just like so much traffic, it's unbelievable. And so what we would do is we would do a hybrid of what you're talking about, Josh. We'd make a page and then we'd have a theme inside the page of different colors for overall. It might be green and blue and orange and whatever for that whole theme. And then we'd actually do Chris's side of it, where he would just do an entirely different night and day approach. We would do that as well. And so we would have like packages of 50 landing pages made, and each landing page would come in, you know, 6 different color schemes with 10 different main images or videos on them. And so we were doing thousands of multivariate tests on our stream of traffic. And then once we figured out the color combo, image combo, we'd try and work on the text. But even at that scale with hundreds of millions of clicks, like there's better ways to use your time. Like,
I'm gonna jump in on that, Adam. We had one campaign where it was like 60 countries or 70 countries, and we split test between the local languages and English only landing pages. And my brain goes, well, there's no way like these countries that are, you know, like it was tons of different languages, but like they're not gonna like these Turkish consumers are not going to want to download the, you know, whatever, or click, you know, conversion. They're not going to convert with an English landing page. And what we learned is that they did convert at a lower percentage rate than with a localized landing page, but that the quality of traffic, the LTV on the English speaking customers made those consumers worth like 6 times as much. So we were like, well, we'll take the lower conversion rate because over the long-term value, revenue opportunity that we experienced from those consumers, we made more money. And I remember showing you some statistics and you being like, wait, so those customers are worth 15 cents if we keep the localized landing page, but if we use an English landing page, they're worth $1 and the conversion rate is only 30% less. It was like crazy, and it made no sense because I'm like, why is someone in Brazil gonna, you know, act on an English landing page? Like, doesn't make sense, but it was wild.
And we figured it out later. And so what we were promoting were games. And when people would download the game, it had in-app like purchases, like, you know, boosters or whatever. And what we found out is business people traveling from English-speaking countries were much more likely to buy things while they were bored in Brazil or whatever. And so our conversion rate just dropped drastically. But what we were doing is we were essentially selling the games to people that were traveling.
We're traveling
in those countries, and so we had a rev share deal, and we were getting LTV, and we realized, oh my God, we're literally accidentally targeting English speaking business travelers. And so like that, I think that type of scenario, to Chris's point, is like sometimes you get random wins and you don't really know why. And so it's just really important to test any major change. I'm not actually advocating, I don't think Harrison is either, of doing international campaigns not in the local language. Usually the local language works much better, but sometimes crazy things happen, and that's why testing is so important. Yeah, and that accident made us a bunch of money. It was super cool.
Do you always try figuring out like when something's unexplainable? Like, or has there been times where like, doesn't make sense, but I don't care because it's making me money, and you just move on?
No, I think Harrison and I share the innate curiosity, and I bet Chris does too. The innate curiosity of wanting to understand why something is working so that we can replicate it. And so when Harrison and I would see something like that, we would, of course, at first we're like, huh? And then we're like, let's go eat sushi and figure this thing out. Because if you can like figure out the why behind what's working, whether it's a video and certain music or the energy level or, the localized language or whatever, if you can figure out the why behind why an advertisement is working, then you can replicate
you can
it and
scale
figure
it.
out how to scale it, make better ads.
I just have one small point. If you ever see Adam and I at a sushi restaurant with a laptop, two things: shit's going down. Leave us the fuck alone.
Or join in the conversation because this shit's happening.
I'm sorry, because Adam, I was thinking about. There's been some times where laptops make it out of a restaurant. It's productive.
It's true. It's true. We were in Germany at Vendôme, a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and Harrison stopped the service and pulled out a laptop and was like, "Hey, everybody, waiters included. Like, I need 15 minutes. Like, just." Then
they were
like,
not
what?
happy. It was very stuffy, and they were like, "What are these kids doing?"
Chris, I want to send it back to you real quick here. Let's talk a little bit about Skylab Digital some more, as well as the industries and verticals that you guys focus on. Just to name a few, I know you guys are in Medicare, health insurance, auto insurance, mortgage loans, debt consolidation, as well as auto and home warranty. Yes, I read that off of your website. But my question to you is, what are the top 3 in your opinion, and why?
So I mean, those are ones that we've done in recent times. Like mortgage is kind of all is dead for the most part right now. I'm waiting for refi to come back up. Auto insurance, I'm waiting for that one to kind of make a good comeback, and we'll be there when it does. The biggest ones right now are Medicare and auto warranty and ACA. And mainly because of the relationships. So I mean, I think in terms of helping us stay ahead of the competition, my real belief is the relationships that you build, and the reason why those 3 are the strongest, specifically Medicare and auto warranty, are because of my relationships with buyers in those two spaces. So I think right now is pay-per call is, especially in Medicare, it's saturated, right? There's a lot of supply, and once we have there's plenty of quality calls to go around. It's more like a commodity. And so the reality of it is, what sets you apart, it's the relationships that you build with these customers. And the best people in the space all have the best relationships with the people that give you big budgets. That's just the reality of it. And so we've been fortunate enough to be able to build some really good relationships in those two, and they've in turn given us really sizable budgets for those two verticals.
I love that you're saying that, because I've been emphasizing the importance of relationship building on almost every episode, and it's what I talked about at the Peloton show, Adam. So Chris knows what's up. I just had to jump in. Go ahead, Adam.
I thought you were about to say you were focusing on relationship building in your personal life, but go ahead, Alan. What were you saying?
I was going to ask Chris to actually unpack what makes a great relationship.
Ooh, that's a loaded question, and a great one. I mean, I think when we go for me, I like to reach out to people consistently and see how you're doing, right? Not everything has to be about business. Not every single thing has to be, can I get more cap? Can I do more, can you improve this ad or what have you, right? Ask how they're doing in their life, right? Send them a bottle of whiskey. Send them, and just being a good person, I think goes a long way. And that's, everybody has their own ways of going about things. But for me, that's been able to really help build my relationships with all of our top buyers is being nice to these guys and getting to know them on a more personal level.
I think that makes people feel more comfortable in advance of potentially having an issue, because the reality is in business, there are always issues. And, like if we had an issue, Chris, I know I could pick up the phone and call you and we'd discuss it and it would be fine. And that comes from us meeting each other and spending time together and investing in that relationship. And to your point, I just got back from Affiliate Summit East. It was incredible. Thank you for all the fans on the pod who came up and said hi. It was pretty humbling. Also, thank you to all the customers who came and spent time with us and our team. It was pretty incredible. I think what bugs me, though, is when someone comes up to me and they're literally like, hi, I'm whoever. Can you introduce me to all the Medicare buyers? And, I laugh at this because they don't stop to consider what my relationship with a Fortune 500 Medicare buyer means to me and our business, and why I would introduce somebody that I don't know to that type of relationship. And I think it's really interesting. I would say that 9 out of 10 people I didn't know at Affiliate Summit that I met did not take the time to actually try and build a relationship with me, which was really interesting. And I think is a huge missed opportunity, right? Because from where I sit in the space, having a great relationship can be super, super beneficial to both parties, frankly. Like I want to have great relationships with customers. And I think in our industry, for some reason, people forget they're so focused on how do I make more money that they don't really think about the long term and what it takes to invest in a relationship and like build it. And I'll give an example of this. So we threw a party in Times Square. It was cool. And I bumped into Jason Akatif there, who's friend of the pod, been on the pod. We've known him forever. He's been in the industry forever. And he was like, oh, cool, an industry OG. Let's talk about some interesting things. And we didn't talk about call business or anything related to it for like 10, 15 minutes. It was just nice to sit there and connect. And then I bumped into Ian Fernando, also a friend of the pod, at the party. And we didn't talk about calls. We just talked about some random stuff. And I bumped into John from Axad, also a friend of the pod. We didn't talk about calls. And like, do you see a trend here? Like, I just saw some of our clients who are also friends and talked about life. And like, I feel super comfortable with these people because I know that I can get to know them. Jason actually called me on Sunday and had a question about technology. And I was sitting on a condo balcony and I took the call. It was great. And we didn't really talk about calls. And so like, I think investing in these relationships and building them for the long term and just not expecting like the CEO of Ringba to hand you a list of everyone's buyers. Like, guys, I'm not doing that. Like, it's just not happening. It is something that people should really think about because we've all been in the industry a long time. Harrison's incredible at this. And this is why, we're able to build actual longstanding companies is because we find people who are great. We build a great relationship and we do that. Before I pass it back, I want to give a pro tip to everyone that wants to come up to me at a trade show and ask me for introductions to all the buyers. I won't do it. It's never happening. Not happening. But if you are a Ringba customer and you make a list of buyers that you would like to do business with, and you come up to me or someone on our team and say, hey, I'm really interested in working with these 4 companies. Is there anything you can do to help? That's a great question because I'm not giving you a list of all our clients' buyers. It's just not happening. So,
and and stay away from his lanyards. Go ahead, Harrison.
Yeah.
I gotta just jump in and say that Adam has told multiple people this, and what's been the follow through, Adam?
Zero.
How many people have
come
gotten
back
you
to me
that
and-
list?
Zero people well, actually, that's not true. A couple times people, but almost all.
Do
almost
better. Follow through. Make the fucking list.
By
That's
the
my
way,
Tony Robbins moment of the day. I don't know.
It's the same for everybody. If Chris comes to me and is like, hey, I need more buyers, they're either in our preferred buyer program. Sure, I'll introduce you to that. Or you need to make me a list of who you want to do business with. And then I'll go tap all of our network and be like, hey, Chris is amazing. You should talk to Chris. I can arrange it that way in a very organized fashion.
Adam,
I think that's
is that a new
relationships, right?
Is that a new zip up that you have on?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is fresh, dude. I didn't even realize that till just now, dude. That is sick.
Whole thing
Like it.
is all
Oh wow. Oh my God.
Look at that.
On a
I will say
rotating
this.
pedestal.
I'd like to mention this on the podcast. Adam officially has his custody Ringba tank tops.
Oh,
And
that's big.
I would
That's
really
big
like
news.
a social media appearance of some Ringba tanks soon. I'm just putting it out there for the OV community because I'm waiting
We
for
might
a
have to,
workout post in a Ringba tank.
We might have
Are
to
you
open
inviting
up.
me to the gym?
Yes, something like that. I
We might
never
have
go
to-
to the gym. What's that? I have a friend named Jim.
We might have to open a podcast digital storefront and sell some of this merch to people if they want it. Chris, I'm coming back to you here. All right. You talk a lot about relationship building and how important that is. So, related to that, talk to me about how you help your clients achieve their marketing goals as well as stay ahead of the competition. Because I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the relationship that you have with your clients.
Yes, I mean, so I know I kind of touched on this part a little bit, but I attribute this to two things. One is building good relationships, and the second is building a good team around me. With a team is so crucial, and I think we've all had plenty of issues with team members in the past. I went to one of the best masterminds I've ever been to, led by Mr. Adam Young here earlier this year, and still reference this Ringba guideline book, mastermind book all the time. He's really helped me figure out good ways to build the team around me. When we have a good team, then we can build a good product. And we build a good product, then we can hit our clients' marketing goals. So those are the two main aspects that I think have been really fruitful for me.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about your identification process. I know you have your own little system here about A, B, and C players. What does that mean to you, and how do you go about determining who's which letter, if you will?
Yeah, so I kind of I started this in Adam's workshop, and I kind of took it to another level of identifying who on our team is either an A, a B, or a C player. And I started by asking myself a few basic questions. And the two that I resonate with the most are A, what happens when you delegate to them? And B, what happens when you recruit? And I would ask this to myself, and I said, all right, when I delegate to them, an A player, I'm fully confident that the task will get done right. A B player, they'll get it mostly done, but they need guidance. And a C player, I'm worried that it won't get done at all. And so those are three kind of measurable things that I can see. When I ask myself about so-and-so employee, what is my reaction to this question when I think of so-and-so? And the next question is, what happens when you recruit? This one's my favorite one. And so an A player, I look for others that are similar to them. A B player, I'm looking for somebody that's better. And a C player is I'm purposely looking for somebody that's really different than this particular person. And now this has given me like a good runway to say, all right, and they're not, some people have A traits and B traits are together, right? I mean, not everybody is aligned on all of them as an A or all of them as a B or what have you. But now answering these questions, I can confirm that, all right, this person is an A-, this person is a B+, this person is a C. And I've been able to easily identify them. It's given me an easy way to identify everybody on our team in the past, in present, and also in the future.
Chris, how does a C player become an A player?
Yeah, so I mean, according to this information that I read, C player is not going to become an A player. And a C player, you just cut. That's just the reality of it. So a B player can become an A player with guidance, but a C player is not, they don't become A players.
Adam, what's your approach to team building? Do you feel like there's a magic number in terms of how big a team is? Or do you think it's really just more about the people and the number is irrelevant?
So, you know, I've failed an immense number of times in my career, more than I care to admit. And a lot of those businesses and some that Harrison and I have built, we haven't invested in the quality of people that we probably should have. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in the cost of quality, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, if we look at the Ringba payroll for a lot of our talent over there, for instance, I think it would really surprise people. And that's not how little they make, it's how much they make and the opportunities that we provide to people. But when you find a straight A player and you give them, hold on, let me rewind there. You find a straight A player who has aligned values with you and believes in your mission, that person can change the outcome of your organization if you empower them. And so it almost doesn't matter how much money they make. You want to provide them with the biggest opportunity possible, because to them, they want to see the mission through. And at our organization, we have a 0 tolerance for a C player. We will cut them immediately. We have 0 tolerance for toxic behavior. We will cut it immediately. We're not very tolerant of B players. They either are going to grow into an A player, or we don't want to keep them around. And, you know, I really love, Chris, how you broke this down. I actually just copied and pasted it to Chad on our team, who helps me do a lot of these materials. I think it's a brilliant way to think about, you know, this in 2 different scenarios and to try and define what these things mean. And I think people do it differently, but I think what you've written up here is just a very simple way to boil down a complex problem. And we'll post it in the comments on the pod. And so I think as a leader, you really have to invest in your people, but you have to figure out how to define people and to actually scorecard people, and then to make the tough decisions around what you're going to do with somebody's future. And firing people is never fun. But at the end of the day, if you have someone who's not thriving at your company, what you're doing is you're penalizing everybody else on your team by keeping them around. You're also penalizing the person that's not thriving because they are not finding the place where they're truly passionate and fit in. And so everybody is losing because the leader is not willing to have a courageous moment because they're scared. And I think it's important as leaders that we understand that everything we want to achieve is on the other side of fear. And we have to make those tough decisions to allow people to find their passion, find their calling, and really thrive. And so that's something that's truly important to Harrison and I, and it's something that is incredibly important to our team at Ringba and all the leadership there. And there's always room for improvement, but defining what that A player looks like, helping B players get there, and making sure that no one else is available or allowed at your organization is really how you build a high performance team. And this is why a lot of companies fail, because they're not willing to sit down and try and figure these things out. It's also, I would like to note, humbling for me that Chris went to our mastermind. Thank you for the feedback. And then took what he learned and then created this framework to help him grow a more high performance team. so many people from that mastermind contacted me afterwards and made major changes in their business. I don't even know how to really process that level of feedback. It was a lesson in humility. But I think what happened from that event is, the 25 CEOs that were there have made major changes in their business and have seen an immense amount of growth because we all got in a room together and decided to be vulnerable and really figure out what we can do better as leaders. So, that was a long answer to your question, but I think this is the most important thing at any business. It doesn't matter what the product is.
And adding on to that, I mean, I think, failing to get rid of C players or even B- players quickly, it really shows that you accept mediocrity to the rest of your team, and it's that all it's going to do over time is bring down your A players to be B players. And if you want to find out how to make an A player a B player, you keep a C player around for a while, and that's the way to ultimately fail your business over time. So that's been a difficult thing for a lot of business owners, myself included, because like you said, firing sucks. It's like, it's not fun at all, but it's one of those necessary things to do to thrive and grow.
I think Adam's had some fun firing people in his day, maybe.
No,
Not at all.
never.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just a joke that didn't land. Okay. Anyways, Chris, talk to us a little
in
bit.
the comedy world, they call that a bomb. Just
They call that a bomb. Yeah. Well, you got to take risks as a comedian. So, just trying my best over here. Chat GPT is coming soon. Don't worry. Chris, tell me a little bit about your data-driven approach. What kind of advanced analytics are you using to really get the most out of your clients and really help people get the most success from working with Skylab Digital?
Yeah, we got connected with this software a couple years back that, I mean, it's like the ultimate tracking platform. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I mean, it does all these crazy analytics. We can do insights and make filters of which buyers are converting which state and do all kinds of cool things with it. So it's Ringba has some awesome analytics, but the best part of Ringba, I think, is all the reporting features that they put together in there, and made it super easy for us to identify winners and losers after they've become a call. And I mean, other softwares do not have that type of capability. And so, with that side, purely from an analytics standpoint, is where we make a lot of our decisions. Within Facebook, we also build out a dashboard that pulls together all of our Facebook costs and our Ringba costs, so we can calculate our ROI in real time through our own internal dashboard, which is pretty cool. And that way we can see kind of which campaigns are producing the most calls, the best cost per call, because looking straight within the Facebook Ads Manager, it doesn't give you all the analytics you need. And so we've kind of made a good combination of the two. But in terms of like optimizing a campaign from a buyer standpoint, we pretty much just keep it within Ringba's insights and reporting.
That was not a paid testimonial.
It wasn't a paid testimony. I wish it was, but it wasn't.
I'll send you a tank.
Tell you what, I'll take you to lunch on Friday, Chris. Oh wait, we already booked that. Never mind.
Well, Chris, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. We'd love to have you back later in the year. Always a pleasure to have friends of Adam and Harrison on the show. And I think we can say safely that you're a friend of the pod now. And if there's anything else you want to leave our audience with about Skylab Digital, now's the time.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys having me on today. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to a really strong AEP. Q4 is a good part for a good season for us and for Ringba, I'm sure. So we're excited to have good partners together. If anybody, if there's any buyers that are listening in on these verticals, reach out. We'll be happy to talk.
For myself, Josh from OfferVault.com. Mr. Pay-Per-Call Adam Young, as well as the industry legend Harrison Gevirtz, and the founder and CEO of Skylab Digital, Chris Shihadeh. Let's make that paper. Let's make that dough. This was the Affiliate Marketing Show. We will see you next time.
Marketing Show.